Hello and welcome to this recorded coaching session. Today I'm joined by the fabulous Judy. How are you feeling today, love?
Tired.
Tired. Yeah. Well, it
Tired.
is
It's the end
late
of
in
the
the
day for
afternoon for
me.
you.
Yes, it is.
So my day is just kicking off in the future, but it's the end of the day for you. So 100%. Now, do you want me to read out what you spoke about in your form that you filled in, or is there something front of mind that you want to cover today?
Why don't you go ahead and read what I spoke about, because I have no memory of writing it.
This happens all the time, I say to people, and
Okay.
sometimes people come on who I'm familiar with. So when I read this out, and for anyone listening, you'll be like, oh, those two have got rapport, because you could tell from what you wrote. And other times people I've never met before. So this coaching is for anyone who fills in the application form and agrees to all the things like that you'll be recorded, you'll turn up on time and all that sort of thing. So what you wrote is, and we can tease this out, thinking about what's next. I'll know more from my Thursday workshop. So for reference, Judy ran a workshop last week about referral / word of mouth marketing. And then you said, you are great when it comes to creative ways to structure offers. I was like, thank you, I received that, which will help me earn money. So that being said, if we get to the end of this session and you're like, this was incredible, best use of an hour, what would you like to walk away with?
Wow. I think I'd like to just feel more energized, to be honest with you.
Perfect.
Like that would feel good, like more energized, more inspired. Yeah.
I love that. And my question, when you said tired at the beginning, is it just end of day tired, which is legitimate? Or is it also like, because when you said feel more energized, inspired, is it like a weary mental kind of tired as well?
I think it's both. I think it's both. Is that illegitimate?
No. That's
I'm joking.
because sometimes I'm tired, like a good night's rest tomorrow, I'll be good to go. And then there's sometimes that I'm tired as in just like, I feel like I'm doing all the things, or I feel like, and it's just not working, that kind of drained, tired.
Yes, that's a good way to say it. Definitely. I accomplished a lot last week. I've accomplished a lot, period. And it tends never to feel like quite enough.
Tell me more about that.
Okay. So here's an example. So today I published a newsletter that went out this morning, and I also made a podcast that I did live, which one would think that would be quite a bit,
Yes.
But there's also a nagging part of me that is telling me you need to do more to publicize these. Nobody sees them or listens to them. And I have the sense that I'm not sure what more I could do, but I also have the feeling, well, maybe I should find out what else I should do.
Would you feel comfortable for right now? And we're brainstorming. I'm going to get you to brainstorm.
Yeah,
So
I love to brainstorm.
when we brainstorm, remember, it doesn't matter if it's fantastical. It doesn't matter if you'd never do it, but it's just to like get your juices flowing. If
Yeah,
you were like,
yeah.
I need to do more to publicize, like no one sees or listens,
Uh-huh.
what are 5 things you could do that just come off the top of the head? Doesn't matter if it takes a few moments or they might come out. What are 5 things you could do to publicize or
Okay.
increase your listenership, reach, potential people finding you?
So I could do a billboard.
Oh, I
I could
love
do a
that.
billboard. I
Yes.
could like borrow somebody's dog, and I could put like a little like doggy shirt on them that has something that says like listen to my podcast. So I could do
Yes.
that and go to a doggy park. And I would have what are those things called? Those marks like QC or something like that.
A
I can never
QR
quite
code
remember.
thing.
QR codes, yes. There'd be a QR code so the dog owners could come over and, like get the podcast information. What else could I do? I could have a t-shirt printed up with this information and walk around, because I walk around my neighborhood quite a bit. I could have it put on a tote bag.
Ooh,
Um,
yes.
I could put it on all of my email signatures, although at this moment I also have I'm also trying to encourage people to subscribe to my newsletter. So there's a little bit of, having two things that are fighting for attention there. Let's see, what else could I do? Oh gosh, I really love this idea. I could put it on small, like, I don't know, like 5 by 7, maybe more like 3 by 5 cards, and either stick them on people's windshields or in their mailboxes. I've always
Mhm.
like thought that would be like a really fun, playful thing to do.
Anything else? You're on a roll.
Just I'm really big on giving people physical things to hang on to. So definitely, having it on my business card, once again, I could stick it on people's windshields. I could go to books. I often do have the idea to go to the library and, stick my cards in somewhat related books.
Mhm.
I love that idea. It feels very playful. Do it at the local bookstore. That's another fun idea, or turn it into a bookmark.
There we go.
And
I was just about to suggest that. So do you have the
yeah,
cards made up already?
oh no, not yet.
Yeah, turn it into a bookmark. Because the thing is, people tend to, from my opinion, business cards, will I put it in the bin or will you? But bookmarks, especially for readers, like at the moment, I'm just like tearing bits of paper because I would never fold the page. But,
Right.
bookmarks I hold
Same.
on to like precious.
Right. Okay. Well, so those are like,
You
I
got
like that
7 ideas
idea.
already.
Yeah. I could take handfuls of them and I guess either ask for permission or surreptitiously, stick them in the books or whatever. But
Which feels better, asking for permission or surreptitiously?
asking for permission feels better. Just because I think, but I have mixed feelings about it. I see it like two different ways. Like part of me feels that if I could do it in a way that felt fun and playful, like I really felt like I used to have this idea, still have the idea of I used to call them like, random acts of kindness,
Mm-hmm.
and they would just be like little business card type things that I would just like stick in people's mailboxes. So in my neighborhood, there are a lot of homes that were built at the beginning of the 20th century. So lots of really, really awesome houses around here. And I've always thought like, I should just put my business card in their mailbox and just say, I love your house. How would you
With
feel
a
about
handwritten
me?
note. If you like, I walk past your house or something that gets their attention, I think that would be magical.
Yeah. Okay. I'll think about that.
A couple of times I've received a handwritten note, like something that they've admired or whatever, and I have much more likely to pay attention than just something just dropped in my mailbox.
Okay. I will think
My
about
next
that. There's
question that
also,
came to mind when you were talking about all those things, would
mhm.
you ever, and you might be like, no, and that's okay, if you've got libraries or bookstores or, places that people gather, council chambers or whatever, offer to give a talk?
Mm, mm. Well, yes, I really like that idea. I really like that idea. Um, I actually enjoy speaking. So I would be really,
Mm.
really cool with that. I had a different business, a small business, marketing coaching practice about 10 years ago. And I really, really, really wanted to um, do lots of speaking because I genuinely enjoy it. And it's also a really good way to get clients. And I found it surprisingly difficult to get people to let me speak to them.
How many times did you try?
I don't know, like 20 times or something back in the
Cool.
day. They have a lot of, because there are a lot of people who are interested in speaking, and I'm always surprised that it is as difficult as it is.
And what about, I know you have a podcast, Golden Threads, and that was
Yes,
part of the thing. It
yes,
was like getting more people to listen.
yes.
Podcast guesting yourself, like applying to go on
Oh, I
shows.
love that idea. Oh, I see.
Because if you are interviewed on a podcast, most people will say, tell us about yourself, whatever. I also have a podcast. It's called Golden Threads.
Hmm. I'm up for all of it, all of the above, up for it. Yeah.
But the thing is, I want to link this back to, so these are 9 things, and I'll email these through to you afterward. I'll just email
Okay.
you all. It'll be just rough notes. So
Mhm.
you said, you know, I have accomplished a lot, but it never quite feels like enough. I wrote that
That's
down.
correct. Yes.
I don't want to add even more things to your plate for you to accomplish. And then, like, imagine if you did all of these things. Just imagine you're like, I commissioned a billboard, I borrowed someone's dog, I had the QR codes, I walked around with my shirts and my tote bags, I gave out bookmarks. Like, when is it enough? Like, how will you know?
Yeah. Wow. Well, that is a good question. I like that question. Okay. So with the newsletter, I have a goal currently to have at least 300 subscribers, and currently I have about 65. So, and it may be fewer. What I want, so here is how I would know, like I was in like my happy place. I would be in my happy place if I had between 5 and 10 highly engaged readers. So that means people who pretty regularly make comments, are engaged in the topic, want to get more into it. My newsletter is on Substack, and I am one of those persons who genuinely enjoys having really good, interesting comments to respond to. I really like that. That makes me very happy. I learn a lot. I always learn a lot from people. Their comments always stretch me and give me new ideas and stuff. I really value how people respond to my ideas. I genuinely do, because I mean, their comments and questions give me ideas too. So it stretches me, So I really like engaging is something I really like. I think I've said that like 5 times, so probably don't have to say it again, but I really come alive when I engage with people. And it's the reason I like doing presentations and having people ask questions and stuff. So it may not need to be 300, but I think enough people so that I have an engaged audience, and also so I have enough people who are purchasing,
Yeah,
because
this was
one
my
of the
next
things,
question, because there is many of us assume that opportunities, highlights, features, numbers, followers equal sales. And there is often people who have huge followings and lists and
right,
promotions and whatever, who have little to no dollars coming in.
that is correct.
And it's like,
Yes.
at the heart of it, the 300 subscribers, wonderful. 1,000, 10,000, however many subscribers, wonderful. But if what you really are wanting, because that's the thing you said also on the thing that you filled in,
Right.
earn more money. Like, sometimes, I love that you're very clear on the goal, because so many people aren't. Like, I've worked with people who like, I wanted to build my list to 1,000, and we've done this, and then they've been so gutted because what they really wanted was to earn money, but they never said that. Or people I've worked with who
Right.
wanted to lose weight. And I remember working with a lady who released over 50 kilos, so over 100 pounds.
Wow.
And in our last session, like, I was like, oh my gosh, you're
Right. That's insane.
inspirational. And
Yeah,
she said
it's
to me,
huge.
deadpan, no kidding, but when am I going to get my transformation? And I was like, well, what do you mean? What she
Oh
really
my
wanted
goodness
was to feel
gracious.
confident. And so we make a false
Ah,
connection in our mind. More
yes, fair
followers
enough.
equals more money. More weight
Yes.
loss equals more confidence. And
Right,
then it's
right,
like, well, I'm still me.
right,
And this part isn't necessarily connected to that part.
right. So I'm going to address that
Yes, please
because,
do.
um, so back in the day when I had this business, at one point I probably had close to 800 subscribers, which felt really good. And I called it an easing at the time, and I had a good easing. Um, and like exactly in alignment to what you said, um, I did not make a whole lot of money because most of those people were not terribly engaged with the topic.
Yes.
They might have they may have, like, I had somebody who published my articles, and they might have read something in my article and were kind of like, oh, what the heck, go ahead and subscribe. But yeah, and what's interesting too is that when I looked at my old list and thought about, who do I want to invite to be on this one? there were like maybe 10 people,
Mm.
maybe 10 people, and probably half of them have unsubscribed already. So yes, there is the whole thing around people who are very enthusiastic and highly engaged. Um, that needs to be balanced with the fact that when offers are made, this is something that is just a very practical issue. Only a certain percentage of people who see your offer are going to be available, right?
Mm-hmm.
Interested. So a whole bunch of things have to kind of come together. So numbers are still important to a point
Mm-hmm. 100%.
because it's entirely, I mean, that's just something I learned. And in a way, I also learned not to take it too personally because I realized there are a lot of people who are interested. It's just the timing, the topic, et cetera, et cetera. They just aren't coming together in that sweet spot for people.
Mm.
So numbers are important. 300 is somewhat arbitrary. 300 just kind of felt like a good
Mm.
number of people.
Numbers are important, but also not important, like most things. Like I remember working with someone who had a list of 57, crafted an offer, and sold 52. I've never seen anything like it. I was blown away. I was like, oh my goodness, this is, I don't, in terms of
Yeah.
conversions. But then I've also heard of, haven't worked with, but one of my coaches was talking about somebody in her circle who had 300,000 YouTube subscribers. So made money passively through YouTube because of the reach the
Yes.
thing. But when launched
Yes.
a program, crickets, like didn't sell
Yeah.
anything. And you think
Yes.
sometimes with 300,000, you would think
You would think.
statistically, you
Yeah.
would, so this, yes, numbers are important, but also not important. But I love how you've been really clear with engaged, like
Mhm.
5 to 10 highly engaged. But once
Right.
again, sometimes
Hmm.
engaged, like I don't know what your experience has been, but often the people, not always, but often the
Oh,
people who respond most to mine
yeah.
never buy. And then the
That's
people who
also
buy are
interesting,
like, I've
isn't
been
it?
following you for years and I don't know them
Yeah.
from anything. Like I look and see that they've been on my list, but they've never responded to one thing. So we just don't know.
Hmm. Yeah. No, you're right. And that is something one of my little mantras is that people are complicated. Buyers are complicated, and there are a million reasons people will buy and 2 million why they won't, and you never know.
Yes. And the other thing I
And we
just
also,
added to your list while you were talking, just to reference when you get this later,
mhm,
our 5 things, which you had 9 and now I've made 10. Have
okay.
you ever thought about or done like submitted articles? Because I know that you write, I've read your newsletter to
Yes,
places like Huffington Post, Elephant Journal, Tiny Buddha.
I
Um,
had not thought of that, but that's a fabulous idea. I love that.
they're
I
all
love
written
that.
down. And as I said, I'll send you through these notes after this.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
places like that, you could easily boom your list to 300 subscribers overnight if you get featured in one of those. I personally had a Huffington Post article go out, got translated to 7 languages, and reached a lot of
Wow.
people. But two, sometimes people, and I think this is a thing, sometimes we have our body of work, but then we have our outlier pieces, or people come in, they
Right.
watch this one thing, and then not everything is about that. So then they also self-select out. So there can be a
Mhm.
boom followed by a bust.
Yeah,
And it doesn't mean
totally.
anything about us.
Right. Right. Well, that's what I meant by the 700, right?
Yeah.
That, there was something that like rang their bell. But
Yes.
then their bell never got rung again, and they were just sort of like not interested.
And
Yeah.
I loved the dog idea, borrow someone's dog, doggy
Isn't
t-shirt
that
QR code, because
crazy?
very
Yeah.
recently someone shared on Facebook who I'm friends with, there was a dog in the cafe wearing a vest that said adopt me. So she went
Oh,
over and asked, and apparently it was a foster mum, and she walks the dog around the city and has the vest. And I thought it gets people's attention. People love to interact
oh
with
yeah.
animals and stuff.
Yes, they do, especially dogs. Everybody loves dogs for the most part. I had some other ideas, so you want to
Oh
hear
yeah,
them?
keep
Here's some
going.
more ideas. Okay. One would be there is a way I know that you can put like a sign on your car. So that
Mm,
is like something you can do. So I think it's like a removable,
like a
some kind of,
decal sticker thing. I've seen those.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, some kind of like vinyl thing. I'm not quite sure how it works. So that's another idea. Another idea would be, this would be really stretching it for me, but like to put a sign on my lawn, like, real estate people put signs on their lawns.
Yes.
As I said, that would be stretching it for me, but I have thought about it. Another idea is there is a guy somewhere in my neighborhood. He used to be kind of close to me, so that's why I even know about him. But he had a big wooden fence and he put all his artwork up on the fence. And he had some really weird artwork. It was very bizarre. But I I don't know if I would have bought a piece, but I really admired him. I thought that that was, like, that's some chutzpah, to do that.
Yes.
And it also felt good. Like he felt like this guy wasn't trying to sell his art. He just wanted people to see his art. Like I said, it was really weird stuff. Um, and he moved, but once again, I was walking down an alley and there was his stuff. So, I mean, part of me is very tempted to, write him a letter, write him a note and say like, hey, like what kind of, do you get results or are you just doing this just because feels good? Who can
You could
say?
open a whole conversation with that. Like the number of people who approached me, hey, but it was interesting how they ask, what did you get out of having 365 days of daily podcasts? They're like, how, and they just wanted the stats, how many clients, how many dollars, how many
Oh,
this. And
interesting.
it's funny the
Interesting.
narrow focus people will have because it's like,
Mm.
am I guaranteed success before I
Oh,
even
wow.
start? So if
Huh.
you said to him, I've noticed your artwork on the fence that you've moved, in a non-creepy way.
Right.
I always put that in brackets or parentheses, as you would call it.
Sure.
I'd love to have a conversation or I'd love to chat to you about it if you're open or something like not does this
Right.
convert? Like,
Right, right,
and
right, right. No, of
because you could
course.
have a wonderful conversation and down the line, you never
True.
know, maybe he could feature some of your artwork on his fence.
True. Yes, and I genuinely do like engaging with people in that way. Like there's another house, probably a mile away that has this huge tortoise that crawls around its backyard. It's like the coolest thing. And I was just like, I really want to learn more about the tortoise. So you are encouraging me to put a note in their mailbox and say, hey, I love your tortoise. And I want to know more. Is it a he? Is it a she? What's its name? It's a huge thing.
Yeah,
It's
you
got to
can
weigh
just
several hundred
ask. The
pounds.
power of
Yeah.
just asking. But the other thing too, I don't know if you have them there. Here, it's very common right now, street libraries, where people have like,
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
So
yes,
if you
yes,
made your
yes,
bookmarks up,
yes.
you could drop them in the street libraries. Grab a book,
Ah,
grab a bookmark, or you could leave a note in the mailbox of the
oh,
person who has the street library and say, could I make a little thing up and then I'll put these in here, like in a cup, and then people can grab a
yeah.
book, grab a bookmark, and you can have that rapport. Like there's all sorts of things. Because if I had a street library and someone
Mm,
just put them in there without asking, I might feel a bit, actually, I don't know how I'd feel. But if they wrote me a note, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's a great idea.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I am, I I feel like one of the things, as you know, I really, really dislike is I don't like skeezy, pushy marketing. I think there's enough of
Yes.
that. There's enough, people are getting enough spam and enough crap as it
Yes.
is. And so I feel like there is something valuable about being polite and being thoughtful.
They'd
I
probably
think,
love it. If I had a street library, I don't at this stage, but eventually I will, and somebody said to me, could I do this? I would be like, yeah. It's funny. It's amazing how often people will do stuff that had they just asked, it wouldn't have been a problem. But it was because that they just took it on themselves that causes some friction in relationships.
yeah,
Because,
as I said, being considerate is something I value. I think,
because the other things you could do, you
mm,
could reach out to Rotary clubs, not only to speak, because every week most Rotary meetings have a guest speaker, so do the Lions, but
right,
also give your bookmarks or whatever to give to their members when they re-up or when they do a feature event, or schools to give them at
mm,
their whatever. Like there's the sky's not the limit here. There's so much you could do, but leading back to when
true,
is it enough? Because
right,
sometimes, the goal, the 300 subscribers or the 5 to 10 highly engaged, it could happen overnight. It could take 6 months or a
yes,
year. But
yep,
can you feel each day that today
right,
it's been enough,
right.
regardless of the external result?
Right, right. Yeah. But one of the things that I don't want to get into is sort of that brute force number where,
Yes.
there's somebody I know when we were talking about selling art, which is it's even harder than getting people to sign up for a podcast. And the way they put it to me, and this is somebody who's very practical, super, super practical. And, they just said, well, just go to the shows, go to the shows, go to the fairs, go to the shows, go to the fairs. And that's what they do. And they do sell art. They are successful. But I felt like, man, I think I'd kill myself if I had to do that. I would be so depressed. Kind of just going to one thing in it and the next, and like it doesn't feel very joyful to me.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Everyone who does it their way will tell you their way because it
Right.
worked for them. Like some people will say
Yes.
network, 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 network. There's some people I meet
Right.
who go to 5 to 10 networking meetings a week. For
Yeah.
me, I can do two, and I'm maxed out. Even though I do them virtually, that's just enough peopling for me in any given week. And
No,
some
I get
people
it.
do breakfast, lunch, and dinner meetings 3, 4 days a week in person.
I
And it
know people
depends
who
on
do
your
that.
personality. So if you're for
Right.
the markets, great. But if you're not, then like that's, there's so many ways to do this. But
Mm,
at the end of the day, or at the end of each day, how can you know that for this day, I've done enough? Even if today I'd
mm,
planned to take my bookmarks to libraries, but actually I was really tired. So I honored myself and had a nap so that tomorrow I could do it
mm-hmm,
fresh rather than turning
mm-hmm.
up at the library with my resting bitch face going, can you put this out? You know?
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. Yeah. Well, I mean, overall, today feels like it was a pretty complete day
Mm,
overall, but there's still just that nagging, that like just always wants, there's a part of me that's always wanting, I think, more validation, more affirmation, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm, like at a early point in my business, and I'm not even close. It doesn't feel like I'm close to any kind of a critical mass, if you will. I think you get to a
yes.
point where the because you have enough relationships, trust-based relationships and familiarity, that it gets easier. But at this point, it's very much it's uphill for me
Yeah.
currently. And
And I
that's the
think not
place I'm
enough people
in.
speak about that because what's marketed generally, and you and I have talked about skeezy marketing before,
Yeah,
is just do this and you have 10K months and overnight success and
right.
this sort of thing. And not many people talk about, the slog or the sacred slog because, you still are
Yeah,
ticking boxes, but it's just slow.
yes, yes. And I think that's a good, I think the way I would like to feel about it is kind of, to paraphrase Mother Teresa, doing small things with great devotion,
Oh, I
right?
love that. Yes.
Yeah, because those small things, when you do it from a place of love and devotion rather than from a place of resentment, I think it's just different. So I would,
100%.
yeah, so I would like whatever I do, it would feel really good.
Well,
I have
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I have a question for you. Okay, what about pens? Pens with business information on it. You have thoughts about that?
It depends. Most of the time, personally, like this is just a personal opinion, I
Hmm.
dismiss them entirely because it's like, oh,
Okay.
here's just another one. Though my husband came home from a
Right.
conference
Right.
2 weeks ago with one that had a ruler on the side, like it had like in
Ah,
inches and centimeters, and then it had a cool
nice.
thing on the end that you could use as a touch
Ah,
screen. But then I didn't even know you could
ah.
pull that off, and it had a Phillips and a flat, like a mini screwdriver that you could turn around. Like that's obviously going to be quite expensive. But I was like, that is a pen I'm not let go of. And then my
That's
kids are
like,
fighting
yeah,
over it. And,
man. Oh, that's so
so
cute.
whatever it is that you do, if it's
Okay, I
something
like that.
unique
Ah,
or something that
ah,
stands out,
okay.
because he came home and he had like 10
Yeah.
pens because every person
Right.
at the event gave a
Of
pen.
course.
But that
Yes.
one was like, that's cool. It caught
Yeah.
my attention with the ruler and then with the thing on the end that you could
Cool.
use on your touchscreen. And then not
Mm.
knowing what it was, I was like jimmying it. And when it came off, I was like, it has a screwdriver in it? We're never going to throw this away. When it's going out of
Th-
ink, we'll just put it in the drawer.
that's like ultimate swag, isn't it?
It
Like
was
that's one
so
of the
cool. And then my
keepers.
daughter was like, go back to another event and get more of those
Oh,
pens, Daddy.
oh, that's so sweet. Oh, that's
The
really
other
cute.
thing too, that just bringing this back to devotion versus resentment, and the things that you're doing, you said newsletter on Substack. and
Mm-hmm.
your podcast,
Mm-hmm.
they have a very long half-life. Like
True.
Substack, you can find and go back.
Right.
Like, and so with a podcast, you can find and go, this person is amazing, and listen back. Whereas if you were like, I'm posting on Facebook or Instagram, I'm not knocking these things,
True.
anyone who's listening, but they have a half-life of 3 hours, and you've
True.
got to be
That
very
is true.
current. But the
You're
things
right.
that you're doing, they might not reach 300 people today or tomorrow or next week. But like 6 months from now, like I had a podcast episode, it was one of my very early ones in this last week, uptake, and it's gone because my very early podcast episodes, I put them on YouTube just for, like, my original focus was audio, but I was just putting them on YouTube because I could. And then
Oh,
I've switched this year my focus to YouTube. And anyway, long story short, my very early episodes only had about 5 to 12 views per episode. This one
sure.
has jumped to 260 in the last week.
Nice. Good for
And I haven't
you.
done
That's
anything. I haven't
great.
promoted it. I haven't whatever. So whatever reason, the Google gods have aligned and somebody's typed something in and then it's reached mass. So
It hasn't even
nothing that
occurred
you're
to me I could put
making,
my podcast videos on YouTube, but I can't I?
100%, you could put the
Nice.
videos. So what I do is I put the video up because
Right.
I prefer that. But if you have audio only, or your guests didn't consent to the video being used or whatever, or you just, you can put the audio up with just the
Good point.
podcast cover. And
Mm-hmm.
then, but or if you're
Mm-hmm.
using Libsyn or Buzzsprout or any of those things, you can actually now have it go to YouTube automatically, and it will just put your YouTube cover, your podcast
Interesting.
cover.
Interesting. I had
So,
not thought of that, but that's good
because
too.
YouTube's the second biggest search engine after Google, apparently about to overtake it. By the end of this year, it's predicted that
Is
YouTube will
that
be the
right?
biggest search engine. That's what I was chatting to someone the other day about who does
That is very
advertising.
interesting. That is very interesting and not surprising, actually.
And the good thing about all these things is they're searchable, they're findable, and you can
Mm-hmm.
update the keywords, the covers, the descriptions. You can change them later. They're not stuck. They're not concretized, set in stone.
Mm-hmm.
But the
Mm-hmm.
feeling that you have, that's like, there's the, what I can control and what I can't control. No matter how good your SEO, your subtitle, your alt tab, your whatever it is, you can't control how many people
Mm-hmm.
find it and listen to it. But what
Right.
you can control is at the end of each day how you feel about what you've
Yes,
done.
that is true. And I was actually thinking because we're probably up to 20 ideas at this moment. And as you know, one of the things I also greatly value is word of mouth.
Yes, we haven't
Word
even
of
put
mouth is
that on the
something,
list.
yeah, which is, I could use the word viral. I'm not crazy about that word, but there are just things that people love. I think the way I would phrase it or articulate it would be creating something people feel good about sharing. They just want to because it feels good.
Yes.
That's how I hold it, as opposed to yeah, how sometimes I'm sure your kids come to you sometimes with a video or something that they really, really want you to see. I'm a sucker for cat videos, so
Usually
my
it's
husband.
that my kids are both into Roblox, and
Ah.
apparently one of the things is being made free, but that they've paid for it. So they keep bringing me these videos of Bloxburg, the segregation between the free people and the people who paid.
Right,
And it's
right.
funny, in the beginning I was like nascent eye roll, but now I'm like, okay, what's the latest? Because I really invested in it as well.
That's really cute.
It's just
That's really,
funny.
really cute.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but anyway, I don't know. Maybe I could like enlist my cats in some way to help me, although I don't know quite what that would be. But it would be fun.
Yes.
It'd be
Another
fun
thing
to,
too,
yeah.
and don't not to put more work, but to see if it feels fun for you,
Mhm.
making some shorts or reels or whatever, like segments from your episodes.
Yes,
When
in
I do
fact,
that, I have the
yes.
best success. But the thing is, it's me getting the inspiration to sit down and do it because it makes me want to pull out my own teeth.
Oh,
But it works well.
I actually, I have no issue with doing that at all. And in fact, one of my intentions has been to read my articles aloud so
Get
that
quotes.
what's
Oh
that?
yeah. Oh, that's the other
So
thing.
that
Read your articles aloud, yes, and record that.
Right. So
Yes.
that people who, because a lot of people, it's interesting the number of people, and I suppose I would put myself in this group as well. I really like listening to podcasts. I listen mostly to news podcasts, so maybe not so happy, but um, I like listening to podcasts, and I like listening as I am doing sort of no-brainer things around the house or taking a walk or whatever. So yeah.
Well,
Okay.
on that note, so my husband loves listening to podcasts, history, current events, things that I
Uh-huh.
personally don't enjoy, but he loves. And
Right.
there's this Australian podcaster called Perrin, who when he found just over a year ago, he had maybe 300 subscribers, and he was focusing on Russian-Ukraine situation. Now he
Mm-hmm.
has well over 1 million subscribers,
Wow.
not even 2 years later. Hasn't changed what he's done, but people started listening to it. It's like, hey, this guy is covering this in what appears to us to be clear, quite informative this,
I
and it's
get
just
it.
grown
Yeah.
and grown. Like word of mouth for him has boomed. And one of his my husband listens to it every week because he's like, Perrin's up. I'm like, okay, I'll be quiet. You know what I mean? And I just happened to be walking past. He's like, oh, it was a slow week last week, only a quarter of a
Mm.
million downloads. And he goes, and I laugh because when I started this, I had maybe 300 people. So it
Which
can
is
happen fast.
right. I mean, but that is like my come from is that I'm kind of like it would be really nice to be discovered, so to speak. As you say, you never know. I do not count on that.
Yeah, you're
My
not waiting for Oprah to
expectation,
call.
no, my expectation is it's going to be as I have said, it is small, consistent actions on a daily basis.
Yes.
And that's it. That's all you can do.
And just a question, when people do join your list, like
Mm.
do you ask them, like either they fill in a form or on their first email, where did you hear about me?
I need to.
That is so valuable. Without a doubt,
I
I
will do
ask
that.
everybody and anyone listening to this, if you join my list, very first email you'll get from me.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think you answered it when you came to my list because you told me it was like Laura or Larissa or Linda, one of them. But
Mhm.
for me personally, what always fascinates me is I don't think you can ever predict. So my biggest referral source is Denise Litchfield, psychic clairvoyant. And it's kind of
Really?
unusual when you think about it because yes, I'm
Wow.
woo
That's
open and woo
fascinating.
adjacent, but I wouldn't say
Wow.
I'm full psychic or whatever. But
Yeah, that's really
because a lot of people
fascinating.
in that field struggle with boundaries and empaths and that sort of thing. So you
Yes.
never know. And then
Ah,
you can be like, well, who in this
nice.
industry could I make
Okay.
connections with?
Mm-hmm.
Because we have a
Mm-hmm.
parallel audience, but we're not competing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
asking people where they found out
Mm-hmm.
about you is really powerful.
I like that. Yes, yes. I that is on my to-do list, which is to improve my welcome page and,
Yes.
just express my appreciation that they found me and ask them some questions too. Yeah.
Because the other thing you could do in your welcome page or welcome series is have your best of or your favorite or here are some
Mm,
article pieces because sometimes like my
mm-hmm,
podcast has over
mm-hmm.
370 episodes now. If people come
Yeah.
in, they're not even going to know where to start. So I've segmented into playlists and I say to
Mm-hmm.
people, these are the kind of playlists I have. Here's one for an example. If you want one of the others, just hit reply and I'll send it to you. And I do. And some people do, not a lot, but some people go, can I please have this playlist? And I just send it to them.
Okay.
But all this to say, let's put a cap on the ideas because we have
Oh,
20 now,
okay.
just for
Okay.
now.
Well,
But
I
go
just
back
had like
into,
another
oh, yeah,
like
give me
really
the
good
last one.
idea. Okay,
Yep.
here's the last one. So the last one is going to be a while ago. I like to have fun. I have a good sense of humor. I like making people smile and laugh. And a few years ago, I created, it was like a graphic and it was called, like I would show it to you, except I don't want to take too much time. But it's a picture of it's a drawing of a cat. And the cat has like one of those turbans on. So its ears are
Yes.
kind of like sticking out.
Yes.
And it has like a caption that says, Feline Overlord says. And and because, like I have two cats and it's always so funny, like, like you're always like, oh, cats, like they have these little brains and they can't talk, they can't really do anything, but they're really, really good at like making you do what they want. It's amazing, really. So I really love, so for a while, I really wanted to do like a regular, like feline overlord says, because they're just fun,
You could make
they're
that
just
into a
fun.
series, and some people would follow just for that, and others would go deeper. But it makes me think of, have you seen Foul Language comics?
Mm-mm, no, I have not.
FOWL. So foul. And he has these
Mm,
ducks and he draws the ducks doing different things. And I follow it. I don't know what else he
yeah,
does, but I follow it just for those because like
yeah.
he had one the other day, or it might be old, but I only saw it the other day. It's like first child sneezes, run them to the emergency room. Third child, look, my leg's fallen off. You'll be fine. Let's just glue it back on, with the
Right.
little ducks. And I was
Right.
like, that is so hilarious.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Yeah.
Feline Overlord says you made that a series. You could have them as little
I've thought
graphics, you
about
could
doing
have them
that.
as things, but there's so many options. And you know what's good thing is about those? They're easily shareable. So
That's the other thing
people
I like
follow
about
that.
them.
And then if you have in the corner, you know, golden threads or root work marketing or whichever thing, then people will credit it. Like I use an image in my work all the time, what showing up daily means. And people think it means 100% every single day. And it actually means, you know, some days it's a little and some days it's a lot, but over, you know, and whenever I use that graphic, I credit the original artist, like concept credit.
Right.
So, yeah, I hope people will go and check out her stuff as well. But it's like, why
Right.
would I redo it when
Right.
I can't
I
say it
like,
better?
yeah, I like the Feline Overlord says, read mommy's newsletter or she'll
Yes.
be sad. You won't get more
Yes.
treats, I like
But
that.
there's lots of things you could do. So with all these ideas, going back to the beginning, like how will you know at the end of any given day, and obviously days are going to vary, but in
Hmm.
general, that it felt like enough? Like today I feel accomplished. Today was enough.
It's a really good question. And I'm not sure I can answer it like right now at this minute because it's something that I have struggled with for such a long time.
There's an exercise I got from a book called The Heroine's Journey. I can't remember the author. I could look it up if you can't find it later. But if you look up The Heroine's Journey, she does a retake of Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, and it's
Mm,
called like I Am Enough. And at the end of the
mm,
day, she's like, and this is what I do every day. So I'm looking at mine here. I recorded a podcast episode today, and then the word she gives, I am satisfied, and that's enough. I've got,
I like
you
that.
know,
Yeah, I like
I
that a
attended
lot.
my kid's school event today.
Mm,
I'm
hmm.
satisfied, and that's enough. And you literally just write at the
Nice.
end of the
I like
day
that.
to remind
Nice.
yourself,
Yeah.
because sometimes we are waiting for, we say we're not waiting, but we're waiting for the Oprah. We're waiting to be discovered. We're waiting for it to all work. And that can happen in a moment. Like it can just, the right person can share it up, or the right person, like you could potentially get 300 people overnight.
Hmm. It
But
could happen.
also, it could be one person here, one person there, like
Hmm.
slowly, slowly, slowly.
Hmm.
But how you feel, how you show up, and what you've done
Yes,
each
true.
day.
Hmm. I like that. I like that a lot. I
Yeah. So
like
at the
that.
end of the day,
That feels good, like substantive.
and even if I took a rest today, like I read a book, or I went for a
Right.
walk, or I did some inner journaling or whatever. Like it doesn't always have to be an outward thing, but most days we can find something that we've done, or even if we have had mostly a rest day, and or it could be like I declined an invitation. I'm satisfied and that's enough. Because
Hmm.
sometimes we
Hmm.
don't want to
Hmm.
disappoint people or whatever, but it's like actually that wasn't aligned.
Yes. Yes, please send me that information. I would like that. I think that would be really good for me.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so what else makes you feel more energized?
I have a question for you,
Yeah, sure,
actually.
hit me.
I think you had mentioned at one point something about legacy businesses. Do you recall doing that or saying talking about that?
No, give me some more information.
I thought it was you, but it might have been somebody, and I'm beginning to think it was someone else. One of the things, like a topic that I, hi, Kat. A topic that I'm really interested in is this idea of a legacy business. And I think I'm still trying to define what that means, but it feels really good.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna say,
really
what do
like
you
that
mean by
concept.
legacy? Because what comes to mind for me when I hear it, I know
Hmm.
someone and she calls her business a legacy business. What she actually does is parents, grandparents, basically any
Hmm.
people
Hmm.
of any age, but usually older people, she will interview them and record something that they can leave. So in the time of their passing, it can be distributed to family members. So you've got like that video to look back and connect with them
Yes,
by. That's what comes to mind when I hear
yes,
legacy.
yes, I
But
hear you.
yeah,
That's not what I act. No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is the way the phrase that comes to mind for me is a body of work. That is the phrase that comes to mind for me. Um, And the other word that comes to me is substantive.
Yes.
And I think maybe one more, like another phrase that comes to me is stands the test of time. Because one of the things in, kind of living in this technical age that we're in, where everything is, basically instantly available,
Mm-hmm.
is that there's just a lot of crap. It's just a lot of crap,
Yeah, there is.
a lot of stuff that doesn't have a whole lot of meaning. Um, I'll give a couple other metaphors, or I don't know if it's a metaphor or an analogy, but there are bands, I'm old, classic rock was new when I was a teenager. And there are bands that have really, you can listen to them, you could have loved them, in 1970, you could listen to them today and they still sound really good. For some reason, I was thinking of the Ramones. I don't know if you're a fan, but I was just thinking about how well their music has aged. There are movies that there you could watch it again and you would just feel like it hits every note perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And
The
I'm
Princess
kind of
Bride, baby. I watch that at least once a year.
there you go, right? For me, it's Alien.
And there are others who haven't aged well. Like you watch again and you're like, oh, oh.
Yeah, yeah, totally. My husband and I watched it was like a BBC sort of made for TV film, which when it came out in the early 70s, people just were like nuts about it. And we watched it again and we were just like, what was it that what got people so excited? And I think that part of the issue was it had inspired so many, following films that it was no longer
Yes.
fresh. It was no longer fresh.
Yes.
And other people did it a lot better.
100%.
Yeah.
So what makes you think about this like legacy kind of thing? What's rooting
It just
around in there?
it just feels good. It just feels good. Makes me feel happy when I think about it. I no,
So
I
with a with
I
a podcast or a Substack or your written word, there is kind of a legacy there
there
because
absolutely is. Yeah. And again, when we look at business, right? And I write primarily about marketing. Um, there are things that they don't change. I mean, human nature does not change very quickly,
100%.
and yeah, and like that's one of the things I talk about with word of mouth is you could have gone to a market in, classic Athens and word of mouth was the way people communicated. And then you could, and although today, like, we have social media and a lot of other things, I still feel word of mouth is something that people really value because you don't make a recommendation or a referral unless you want your name associated with it.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, everything on the internet is just so, ephemeral to a large degree. Anyway, I don't know. It's just something I suppose I have a
Well, leaning back
personal,
into word of mouth, just a suggestion, because I'm
yes,
looking at the
sorry.
list of ideas because I have them in front of
Mhm.
me. One of them was like grab quotes from your articles. If you've written an
Mm,
article that
mhm,
you're
mhm,
emailing out to people, at the bottom
mhm,
of it, you could have here are some quotables. Grab
mm,
quotes
mm, mhm,
from the
mm,
article. If any of these stand out
mhm,
to you, please share them
mm,
up. And then on it, you
mm,
have the link
mm.
to your Substack or your link, read the full thing here. Because people will often see something and go, oh, I loved that. Like that really stood out for me. Like on
Yep,
my one of my YouTube lives I did a couple of weeks ago, I said, you can't get good at what you don't do. And someone liked it
that's
so
for
much,
sure.
they turned it into a quote and then tagged
Mm,
me in it. So it's like you
mm,
could do it
nice.
yourself. You could make your own quotes, put them at the bottom
True.
and say, share these, please. That because the thing is sometimes we
Yes.
ask people, can you recommend this or if you like this, share, but they don't know how. So if you're giving them snippets, whether they be reels or short videos or quotes, like this is how you support me, it's not
Hmm.
pushy or gross or skeezy. You're not saying share this or you can't, but if this
No, I
resonates with
totally get
you,
it. Right. No, I totally get it. I think, at this point we have a really long list. It's
we
pretty
certainly do.
extensive. And I think what I will probably be doing is kind of looking through them and just seeing what has the most energy for me
Yeah, that's such a great
and
idea.
trying those things out because because I am my concern is I have a tendency, kind of old corporate me to look at things and say like, well, what has the greatest, possibility here?
No, which feels good to you.
Yeah,
And try it. Like you've got a list of 21 things. You could go, these
right,
two feel in my gut the best. I'm going to start with them. And
right,
also give yourself enough
exactly.
time. Don't just try it once and go, well, that didn't work.
Yes, yes,
You
yes,
could have a year's
yes,
worth of ideas here quite easily. But
right.
before we wrap up, because we're coming close to time, but how you feel each day, you feel accomplished and you feel like it's enough. There's
Hmm.
that exercise from the heroine's journey, which I'll send to you, but this
Thank you.
and I am
Mhm.
satisfied and I'm enough.
Right.
Does that feel sufficient? Obviously, you're going to need to try it, but is there anything
Mhm.
else that you can think, yeah, like this is how I'll feel enough today?
Mm. I think what you mentioned is a good start. I have a feeling that when I use this in time, it'll probably spark other ideas because that's kind of
100%.
how I operate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So back to our thing at the beginning, which was feeling energized and inspired. How are you feeling right now?
I am feeling inspired, somewhat energized, still feeling a little tired, but I'm feeling like I'm looking forward to getting this list and having some fun, like just reviewing it and letting my creative mind just kind of like, you just kind of like take them in and kind of take them under consideration. Because, yeah,
You went to say having
yeah,
some fun and then you moved away from it. Can you finish that sentence?
I don't remember.
Okay. I'm just
Having fun.
curious.
Well, the fun part is the creative part for me.
Yes.
That's like the fun part of like looking at an idea and just like sitting with it a little bit and thinking, what does this spark? Kind of like what emotions are coming up for me, what ideas are coming up for me, what resistance might be coming up for me,
Mm.
because resistance comes up too. But I definitely like feline overlord, big thumbs up, like yes, just yes, like really want to play with feline overlord because that is just something that has a lot of juice for me.
What
So feline
if
overlord might be the first thing.
What if it could all be fun? Because sometimes I see coaches, creatives, people, it's like, I love what I do.
Mm,
Yes.
mm, mhm,
I
mhm.
can't stand talking about what I do.
Yeah, I
It's like,
know.
what
I
if
know.
it
I get
all
it.
could be fun?
That is a delightful, fabulous possibility that I will
Mm.
allow myself to consider
Because you could try
because,
some of these things and go, they sound fun, but in actuality,
right,
they are not. Or
right,
they open the door to
yes,
more fun things. But I think when
right.
we segregate, this is what I do and I love it, and this is how I
Mm-hmm,
promote what I do and I can't stand it, then of course we're not
mm-hmm,
going to want to spend any time over here. We're going to want to spend more time here. But then,
right,
so it's like, what if it was all fun? What if it wasn't fun? I just didn't do it.
right. Well, most of the stuff I do is fun. I mean, I love to write. Writing is one of my happy things. I love to, most of the stuff I do, I genuinely do like to do.
Yes, that's awesome. So what's been your
Yeah.
biggest takeaway from today?
Oh, like this like big cool list of fun stuff. I feel like
Yes.
it feels like a Christmas list,
It
like,
does.
yeah. So
Yes.
I'm psyched, I'm super psyched. I'm going to have some fun with it, if you will.
I love that. Thank you so much
See
for
what I
joining me,
can do
Judy.
with it. Thank you,
Yes. And I'd
Suzanne. You
encourage you to watch
are
this back. Seriously, or
okay.
listen to it back if you don't like watching yourself. I don't, but I don't watch anything. And people are like, do you like watching yourself? I'm like, actually, honestly, I mostly listen to almost everything. So listen to it back. Because
Mm-hmm,
sometimes on the re-listen you'll get, even more ideas.
hmm,
But as you
hmm,
listen, my invitation for you is to really hone in on the fun piece and whatever.
mm,
How can I make this fun? Because imagine writing a letter. Can I talk to you about
agreed.
your tortoise? Or can I ask you about your artwork on the fence? That is fun. And if
Agreed.
they don't write back, that's
Yeah,
okay. Just as
exactly.
you walk each day, what could I open up to?
Right.
Yeah, I love it.
I
Thank
have a
you,
good
Judy.
neighborhood for that. Thank you, Suzanne.
Bye for now.